Yeah, thanks for the introduction. And some of you have seen some of this presentation. I know at the end here, we want to give you an update on our water keeping no progress, especially focusing on where we're at with our second water source work. But I always like to talk a bit about the system. For those of you that aren't familiar with the system itself, a little bit about the history of the Lincoln water system, how we do our planning, how we come up with that whole concept of, well, how much water will Lincoln need and when will they need it and how much do they have? That's the math behind that is actually pretty simple, but there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So a little bit about the Lincoln water system itself. It's a complex system. Our only single water source is located near the Platte River, north of or upstream of the Interstate 80 bridge. It encompasses about 5 miles of riverbank. We have a series of both vertical and horizontal collector wells. Right now, we've got 44 of those wells in place. And I'm going to go through all of this list of these of the assets that we use to get water from the well field to the customer. But we have 60 miles of large pipelines to Lincoln. It's a little bit of a unique system because our source is quite some distance from the customers. And because of that, we have a lot of storage in the system. We have over 100 million gallons of storage in the system. And we definitely leveraged that in 2019 when the floods came down the Platte River and took out some of our key infrastructure along the river. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. We have 6 pressure zones. That's the coloration that you see there in Lincoln. And you can kind of get a feel on where we sit relative to our entire system here at Hart and Hall. And in the end, we've got probably approaching about 90,000 accounts in our system. We're serving a population of about 300,000 now, potentially over 300,000 here in Lincoln. We only serve within the city of limits of Lincoln. So a little bit about the history. I know some of you have seen these slides before. It is kind of interesting. The system became a municipal system in 1876. And that supply lasted until the early 1930s. And that was primarily done through 3 wells that were here in Lincoln. They were, I call them kind of a cistern well or hand dug wells. And as a result of that, there was a typhoid fever outbreak that occurred in 1911 and 1912. And there was a lot of research on what was causing that outbreak. And initially, the water system really wasn't thought to be the source of the typhoid fever outbreak. In the end, they traced it back to E. coli contamination that was in one of these wells. There was a sewer that was about 10 feet from the well. The sewer broke, and the story. It caused, I think there were about a half dozen deaths that were associated with that typhoid fever outbreak, or what became traced back to E. coli contamination. So the other interesting thing here is even in the early 1900s, we were dealing with that whole idea of lawn watering, right? The seasonal peak is based to a large extent. When I say seasonal peak, I'm talking about summer water use, is to a large extent due to customers' watering laws. And what's crazy is that was occurring back in the early 1900s, even to the point where they had to issue mandatory conservation and ask people to stop watering their lawns. So, at some point as Lincoln grew, it became pretty obvious to the forefathers that we had to do something else. The city of Lincoln, in order to be to allow the population to grow, the whole thing about economic development, had to find another water source. Interesting fact here that G. Condra, who was the first dean of the Conservation Survey Division of UNL, authored a paper that talked about the importance of water and what these water sources might be and should be evaluated. what's interesting here is some of the water sources that we evaluated as part of our Water 2.0 initiative were on this list also. And I'll end up with a slide that basically repeats that second sentence in this report. And that's all agree that a dependable water supply of good quality is one of the most important factors in the life and growth of any municipality, especially so with the city of Lincoln, capital city of Lincoln. We have that same philosophy, and I'll end with that slide. We need to maintain an adequate supply of water for Lincoln and this region to remain a viable community and ensure that we have economic development potential here. So in the early 1930s, Ashland was identified as the next water source for Lincoln. Bond issue was voted on and approved for $2.3 million. And we went to Akron, we constructed wells, built an initial pump station, not treatment, but an initial pump station to take water directly out of the well field and send it to Lincoln until we had issues with turbid water. And that was primarily related to iron and manganese that was in the water. So pretty quickly, we had to establish a treatment plant. And what's interesting is you look in this cross section of the treatment plant and those sand filters that remove the iron and manganese, those are still in service today. Same medium, they're still in service today, giving us very high quality water and very high rates of iron and manganese removal. And you'll see later on in a picture, the plant right here is still in service today. Part of that plant is still in service today. So to get water then from Akron down to Lincoln, you obviously have to have a pipeline. This is a cool picture of some of the first pipe that was delivered to Lincoln. It's a 36-inch cast iron pipe that essentially ran from Ashland down to approximately the zoo area, the children's zoo area, where we had a large pump station called the A Street Pump Station. And what's very interesting here is they constructed that pipeline in less than 1 year. Now, obviously, they didn't have a lot of the permitting issues and things that we have in the modern day of construction. But to think that they constructed 24 miles of pipeline in less than a year is pretty amazing. Now, pipeline is still in service today, giving us good service. We always knock on wood when we talk about our pipelines, but we've not had any issues with that pipeline. So, how do we figure all this out? Well, we do it with a lot of master planning. We don't make guesses. We do a lot of analysis on our system. Every 10 years, we do a comprehensive look, what kind of soup to nuts of our entire system. And every 5 years, there's kind of a midterm look at a couple of important topics that we want to focus on. Those could be regulatory topics, treatability issues. It could be how we can better identify problems in our water distribution system. So that's really what we use to evaluate the system and then come up with ideas about when we need to have a second water source and where that water source should be located. And in the end, we have to look at the financial aspects of all of this and figure out how are we going to pay for all of the things that we are planning for. And about half of our capital improvements program is related to infrastructure renewal and replacement, and about half is related to growth. There was a time probably 20 or 30 years ago where that was kind of imbalanced. We were putting a lot of money into growth projects, not a lot of money into taking care of the infrastructure. We've got that a lot better balance now. So I had mentioned earlier that this idea about the math behind how much water do you need is actually pretty easy. So it's how much will we have at any one time and how much will we need. You subtract the two and hopefully you have a positive number. If you don't, then you're in trouble, right? And we look at what seasonal demands on the demand side, we look at seasonal demands. So again, that's our summer use. And in our most recent master plan, our 2020 master plan, not only are we looking at population growth, but for the first time ever, we're trying to work climate change, climate prediction into both our demand and our supply analysis. So, well, how do you do that? Obviously, well, using some of the research that came out of the university here in what temperatures may be looking like 50 years from now, what precipitation trends are being predicted as the climate warms. We're able to apply that statistically to these projections. So when we did that, we actually accounted for about a 0.3% increase in water demand related to climate change. Interesting on the supply side, when we looked at climate predictions, there's really two things that are happening that are opposite with each other. One is prediction of higher runoff in spring. Of course, that doesn't correspond to when you're using water. And increased consumption, mostly related to irrigation during the summer with hotter weather, less humid conditions and hotter temperatures. And when we statistically look at that and apply that to how much water we believe is going to be coming down the river, those two almost cancel out. You get a little more water in the spring, you're going to use a little more water to the river stream in the summer, and those both sort of cancel out. The important thing is we're looking ahead and we're trying to anticipate changes in climate in our supply and demand projections. And then lastly, and certainly very important, is diversifying water sources for reliability. I'll talk a little bit about the flood we had in 2019 and some of the lessons learned. This is a surprise to some folks that per capita water use over the last 30 years has gone down. For those that are sort of in the business, this trend is not unique to Lincoln. Water utilities see this across the country. In fact, have in some cases struggled with the revenue shortfalls that go along with per capita, less per capita water use. And kind of another interesting part of this is even in dry conditions, which is where we see our high demand, again, back to lawn watering, even in dry conditions, drought conditions, we're seeing per capita water use decline. Then the next question is, well, why are you seeing that? We probably don't have a good answer to that other than I think with education, there's a lot more awareness that our customers have that water is a finite resource. And we've seen certainly improvements in technology when it comes to lawn watering, whether you like them or hate them. Automatic irrigation systems, if you set them up properly and use them properly, you're probably going to save water over traditional running a sprinkler. So interesting, but even in our peak times, we see reduced per capita water use. So this pie chart comes out of the 2012 drought, and it represents where we were getting our water. I think you all know that flow in the Platte River is directly connected with how much water we have available. So we're always looking at low flow conditions when we're trying to make our projections of how much supply we have available. And 2012 was really a great data point. That was the lowest flows that we've seen in the Platte River through the Ashland gauge on record. So it's pretty obvious what the important base flow is for City of Lincoln. It's coming out of the loop system. Obviously, the South Platte gets gobbled up by other uses, depending on storage up on the North Platte tributary. Potentially that represents some significant flow, but it's really that loop river system that provides the base flow during droughts and summer conditions. So this is just sort of a graphic that kind of shows the drought events that we've had that we've been faced with throughout the years. Started this presentation with in 1913, they had to ask folks to stop watering their lawns. We did that in 2002, and we did that in 2012. And when I say we did that, we implemented mandatory or designated day water restrictions. On the flip side, we've had flood events that certainly affect our facilities, not in terms of supply necessarily, in terms of available water, but certainly in terms of damage to our system. And again, 2019 was a great example of that. Back on the drought, back on the low flow events, we can actually statistically look at what might be the probability of exceedance for return intervals of these low flow events. And that gives us that sort of gives us a way to communicate the importance of having diversified water sources. So there's a 60 to 90% chance that we could experience low flow events again in the Platte River, similar to 2012, in the next 50-year planning period. And in our minds, that gives good justification that we need to have another source of water that's not as prone to drought events as the Platte River is. Just some examples of what things look like. Again, 2012 there on the right side of the slide. I think the lowest flow in the Platte River in 2012 was right around 200 CFS. But that's what it looks like. Not a lot of water. The normal flow is the 8,000 CFS. On the flooding side, this picture is of the 2019 event. This was a record event, over 200,000 CFS past the Ashland gauge. The river's never seen that much water. It was a very significant event for us. We also had another flooding event in 1993, a significant flooding event in 1993 that took out some of our facilities. In both cases, we were down to minimum supply. In fact, in 2019, there was probably a 2 to 3 day period that our customers were using more water than we were producing. So again, the math is pretty easy on that. You can't go many days in the red, so to speak, and that's where the storage in our system becomes very important. We did implement, we call them catastrophic water restrictions. So we were asking car washes to close. We were asking restaurants not to serve water, use disposable dinnerware. So it was.
From Blinder. I started Blinder in my garage back in 2010.
We had some. The opportunities there. Yeah, so the 2018 flood was significant. This well that you see with the helicopter flying around, that is the well that's on the tip of the island. It's one of these collector wells, very high capacity wells for us. We were not so concerned about the well itself. What we were trying to protect is that valve vault right in this area here. Had we lost that, it would have likely taken the pipeline with it, and we would have been out of water from our entire collector well. And that we would have been without that water for a long period of time. So we were trying to protect that structure. Okay, so here's that simple map I talked about before. The blue line is the supply that we have available. We have a very robust groundwater model that allows us to evaluate how much water we have available in the aquifer. But again, it's all tied to how much water and how much recharge that we're getting out of the Platte River. It's all tied back to stream flow in the river. So all of this is looking at seasonal supply and seasonal demand. So what's happening in the summer during low river conditions and hot weather, and how much our water and how much our customers are using during these times. So green line is the seasonal demand, blue is what we have available. Those lines come together, you're out of water. Those lines get close together, you're more likely to have to implement water conservation measures. And while that's in our bag of tricks, we have a water management plan that we use to implement water conservation practices in the community. You don't want to do that all the time. You'll wear your customers out. It begins to project that your community doesn't have enough waters. So we're actively building the 5th and 6th collector well that you see. That'll get us up to a capacity, a supply capacity, a seasonal supply capacity that'll last us through 2048. So this gets us kind of to Lincoln's next water source. And so the next few slides, I'll just talk about how we arrived at making a decision to do that, and where we're going for our next water supply. But it's all about this whole idea about redundancy, whether it's mitigating drought or whether that impacts your facilities. There's also a potential for regionalization. As we develop another water source, I think there'll be more opportunities that Lincoln Water can provide a regional supply to other communities. And then this whole idea about future climate impacts. We talked about demand's gonna go up. Supply can be impacted in the summer months as far as being tied to the Platte River. This, I know you can't read that, but this was an article that was published in the Huffington Post. It was from some research back in 2012 out of the University of Florida, declaring Lincoln in the top 10 cities across the country that have a vulnerable water supply that may run out of water. So, you wake up and read that and you think, well, we maybe disagree with the analysis, but the analysis was really tied to a single source of water that's vulnerable to drought conditions. At least that's our read of the research that was done. Comparing to other water utilities across the country, just to make sure that we're not I guess overselling the concept that Lincoln needs to consider a second water source, another water supply source, is benchmarking to other utilities. And when AWWA, American Water Works Association, in their 2020 benchmark, one of the things they look at is available water supply measured in years. And you can see the median of the reporting utilities across the country was 51 years of water. We've got 20 years of water supply. So we're in the lower 25th percentile of water utilities that at least reported in this survey. So we're a check on the reality check that we're headed in the right direction. So back in 2022, based on all of this, the mayor commissioned a water source advisory council, a group of stakeholders charged with coming up and making a recommendation to mayor on where the next water source should be. So this group was really doing the work that Dr. Condor did back in the early 1900s. And you'll see a couple of familiar faces, at least. Dr. Ray, I don't think, was able to be here in the presentation, but you see Dr. Ray there in the lower right. He was part of that group for obvious reasons. And the rest of the stakeholders were really selected because they represented groups of people that have a vested interest or have a range of knowledge that could help us pick this source of water. We had folks representing the ag sector. We had various elected officials. We had representation from the League of Municipalities, just a whole wide range of folks that this is their business. This was a very technical analysis that we asked this group to do. And over the course of about 9 months, the group first sat down and developed this criteria or these factors that they were going to use to make this selection. Within those factors were buried some, I guess you'd call them sub-factors that they were going to evaluate for each of the alternatives that were considered. So things like reliability, that was big on the list. Governance, how would this water source be operated? Would it be managed under a board? Would it be regional? Would Lincoln be able to retain its autonomy on the water source? For instance, one of the alternatives was to connect to MUD. Well, you lose some autonomy. There's obviously a contract that goes along with that connection, and very likely that contract would have some kind of a disconnect clause in it. That particular alternative, when you look at the scoring, would score low in Lincoln having autonomy over this next source of water. So an initial 15 alternatives were looked at. They were running through those factors in kind of a desktop fashion. And again, some of these are the same water sources that were evaluated back in the early 1900s. And then what spilled out of that kind of initial desktop analysis were these 7 alternatives then that were taken through a much more rigorous analysis using those factors. So every month we would get the water advisory folks together, and they would have a presentation from our consultant group on the technical aspects of each of the alternatives relative to the factors that they were considering. And they would literally vote and rank how that alternative matched up to the particular criteria that they were evaluating. It was very rigorous. These meetings lasted 4 to 6 hours. And in the end, the group, again, through a very objective analysis, recommended to the mayor that we go to the Missouri River, build a well field, and bring water back from Lincoln. And the key is treat water near the source. That way you had treated water or finished water that could possibly be dropped off to others in that corridor. So that whole concept about opportunity for regionalization. So just real quickly, you probably can't read that, but this just shows that the recommendation, the analysis was very objective. The committee members individually ranked each of those factors. This bar chart sort of represents the benefit side of the analysis. And you can see that alternative H, going to the Missouri River, treating water at the river, using a well field, really had the highest benefit. It's the highest rate. Now there's another slide. I won't show that one to you just for sake of time, but the cost side of things, we wanted to do this first and then look at the cost side. This does happen to be the highest cost alternative. Not by a lot. So this whole timeline for where we're going with the second water supply source from today through about 2050, we can have enough capacity in the Platte River as long as we get it fully developed with additional wells and additional treatment capacity. We can, that will last us through about 2048. The idea here, though, is that it doesn't do anything for redundancy. We're still tied to that single water source. Beyond 2038, our plans are to fully develop the Platte River well field and also develop the source along the Missouri River. And then after 2075, you think, well, how can you even be thinking that far down the road? One of the things that we are looking at with the well field selection is a well field that has capacity even beyond 2075. So again, just really 4 items that we're currently working on. The Platte River. So develop the existing Platte River source of supply. Initially provide some upgrades to the Platte River supply treatment facility. I did it twice. Begin construction of the first segment of the water transmission main that will receive water from the Missouri River. I always say it's like building the transmission side of it is like building an interstate. You got to start somewhere, and we're literally starting on 98th Street and building a transmission main that will receive water and really mix the 2 water sources together from the Platte River and the Missouri River side. And then finally, begin developing the Missouri River well field and treatment facility. So just some examples of all of that. Here is, this is what we would call our 6th collector well. Officially, it's called 24-2. And you can see the Interstate 80 there in the background. Very obvious. You can see this from the bridge when you're going up to Omaha. Once that well goes into service, there's a 5th one that's just upstream from this that's getting also constructed. Once these 2 wells are in service, that will essentially fully build out our Platte River well field supply. And these are collector wells, high capacity wells. Our modeling would suggest that these wells during summer months, low river conditions, would have about 7.5 million gallons a day of capacity. Now, during normal river conditions, these wells can produce 15, possibly 20 million gallons of water a day. This would be an additional pipeline. Again, getting at this whole idea about redundancy and resiliency and mitigating some of the concerns with flooding. We're putting in, have put in a second crossing of the main channel of the Platte River. You can see the pipe strung out. That's 48-inch steel pipe, been welded together in that photo to the left, laid out, and then you literally lift it up, insert it into the bore, and pull it out of the river. It's quite amazing to see. The concept just kind of blows your mind. In this particular case, you're always worried about the borehole collapsing or somehow the pipe getting stuck. Sure enough, about 200 feet from the final hole, the pipe did get stuck. Contractor had to come down and put a pneumatic hammer on the end of the pipe. Literally, you're kind of jostling the pipe a little bit while you're pulling it, and they finally got it to reach the end. But that does give you some pause when that operation stops and somebody says, "Hey, the pipe's stuck." So the idea about developing more capacity at the effluent treatment plant to accommodate the additional supply that we're bringing in. This is both hydraulic reason, just more water through the plant, and also better treatment for iron, manganese, and arsenic. So we'll have a need for water treatment of those substances. And then I had mentioned the finished water transmission main. This would be a 54-inch transmission main that will serve as the interconnection for the Missouri River source. And for those of you that are familiar with Lincoln, that connection, and I've got a picture of the T, I think in the next slide, that connection will be at 98th and Adams. Literally, there will be a T there. And we kind of joke that on the blind flange of the T, we might write, something like connect Missouri River supply here. But this slide that you see, picture that you see on the left side of the screen, right in this area is our pipeline that comes from the Ashland treatment plant. And you can see then that this transmission main connects into that. So this first leg or first segment of transmission main will allow us to provide water from the Platte River down the main that would be coming from the east from the Missouri River. So if we had people connected to that transmission main and the Missouri River supply was taken out of service for whatever reasons, we could supply those folks with Platte River supply. So that's the importance of this transmission main. It literally provides an interconnection of the two water sources. Just a picture of the picture there on the right is that T. We've engaged Robinson Elementary School, trying to teach kids a little bit about water. Really the whole gamut, teach them about water, teach them about the trades when it comes to heavy equipment operation and building, constructing these kinds of facilities. And so it was a great opportunity to interact with the youngsters. So our Missouri River water source, the project goals is we've identified that second water source, and now we're setting about designing the infrastructure to pump, treat, and distribute the water from the new source. So we've acquired property for the treatment plant, which then first required us to get to about 30% design on the treatment plant. We needed to make sure we had the hydraulics of the treatment plant correct, as well as enough space for all of the treatment systems. And then construct the project in the next 10 to 20 years, get it to be in service by that 2048 time frame. Yeah, so developing the Missouri River source, I haven't really talked a whole lot about the capacities, but we really need another 40 million gallons a day to meet the demands that we are projecting through 2075. So once we get our Platte River supply fully developed, that's about 105 million gallons a day, again, seasonal capacity. Add to that the 40 that we would derive from the second water source, that gives us, matches the demand that we're projecting in 2075 of 145 million gallons a day. And again, the point is this well field that we're looking at, we're hopeful that it'll provide capacity even beyond that 2075. So provide a capacity more than 40 million gallons a day. And in the end, provide that redundancy and resiliency to our system. And, if the MUD folks were here, so MUD is the water provider up in the greater Omaha metro area, they would be talking about their triangle reliability. So they've got two connections to the Platte River supply, and they've got one connection to the Missouri River. And they talk a lot about their triangle reliability. We hope to be talking about that at least in 2048. I don't know if it's a rectangle of reliability. So just real quickly, what's happening then along the Missouri River, these are the two well fields that we evaluated. It's pretty obvious for those of you that are kind of in the know on alluvial aquifers, these inside bends of the river are kind of water rich. And so, almost from a desktop, you can kind of say, well, this is where we ought to be concentrating our efforts or looking for water. So we've evaluated those two, again, inside bends. We have a preferred site, which is the north site. And that's where we're currently focusing a lot of our hydrogeologic work. This is a cross section of, showing where our well field would be, very close to the Missouri River. So these wells will literally be adjacent to the river. In fact, they'll be in the river during high river conditions. So everybody has said, that area, those two areas that you're looking at flooded. Well, we know that. And during those conditions, these wells will actually be in the river. They're designed to have boat docks. So if you have to go out and service the well, you literally take a boat. So the whole point here is that there is direct connectivity to the Missouri River. And so most of our water is going to be coming from the river. In fact, that pie chart well, pie chart actually shows how much water we'd be taking out of the river. So we've been getting that question. Are you going to have a significant impact on the Missouri River system? And our answer to that is, well, no. There's a lot of water that comes down the Missouri River. So we're looking at, a 0.25% we would be taking out of the river through the well field. The proximity of these wells to the river, we're able to show that about 95% of the water coming into the well comes from the river. So obviously there is a concern about impact to surrounding wells. And we're continuing to evaluate that by developing our groundwater model. And we are pretty certain that there's not impacts to these surrounding wells. Most of those wells, certainly after you get out of the valley and up on the bluff, those wells are really founded in shallow aquifers, perch groundwater. So we believe there's good separation there. So in order to, again, develop this groundwater model so that we can assess impacts being drawdown, zone of influence that these wells would have, we have done quite a bit of hydrogeologic work. We started with airborne electromagnetic surveys. It gives us an idea of where the water is in the site, looking at really the coarse grain materials in this area. We've done a lot of hydrogeologic drilling and testing that continues to be in progress. Today we're actually installing test wells, pump test wells, that we can get more information to better define our model that we'll use to, again, assess impacts. It allows us to evaluate well field capacity. Some of these charts are probably familiar to folks. This information on the left side was developed through the AEM data, again, flying over, looking at developing, where these coarse grain materials are, which really is where the water's at. The channel that goes through here, which would have been an old channel in the Missouri River. And, we're going to focus a couple of wells near those wells. Near those areas. This would be an example of some of the borings we've taken. The graph that's there on the right side is showing hydraulic conductivity. See, you have quite a bit of hydraulic conductivity, or higher hydraulic conductivity, in those coarse grain, fine grain material. So all of this together just allows us to continue to assess both capacity, drawdown, and zone of influence from the wells. And we're looking at the well field being fully developed, 4 to 5 of these collector wells pumping continuously. So again, how do we get the water back in the well field or the treatment plant? This is a proposed alignment of the transmission main, essentially coming down McKelvey Road, if you're familiar with that area, dropping down and then finally tying back into our system again at that 98th and Alvo area. There would be probably at least one intermediate pumping station along this transmission main, a terminal pump station and reservoir near Lincoln. And we're actively out talking to property owners and currently seeking voluntary easement acquisition for this line. So again is just finalizing the well field evaluation and eventually getting to property acquisition for the well field. I mentioned seeking voluntary easement acquisition, working and building out the Platte River well field, and finalizing that first segment of transmission main in Lincoln. So as I mentioned in this last slide, is very much what Dean Condra had mentioned back in the early 1900s, the importance of water to the community and to economic development. So I'll end with this and open it up to any questions that you have.
Great talk. I appreciate the starting with the water security question. Of course, water quality is also part of that, along with water quantity. And you touched on water quality development a little bit here. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about if there are new water quality concerns coming from river water or the expanded well fields in Ashland.
Well, first of all, both sources of water are high quality. And one of the reasons that, and I didn't talk about it a lot, but there were really four alternatives for the Missouri River. Two of those alternatives were surface water intake, two were groundwater. Obviously, you have a better water quality to start with a well field, simply the bank filtration that you get. The waters will have to be compatible with each other. If you have two incompatible water sources coming into your distribution system, you can have real problems. Corrosivity, high lead concentrations because of lead in the plumbing system, copper concentrations. So it's very important that those two different water chemistries are matched. So we'll have to do that. The Missouri River water is much harder, so we'll have to do softening. So that offers a little bit of a challenge. A softened finished water coming in with a non-softened finished water. It can be done. You really have to manufacture the compatibility between the two waters. In terms of PFAS, that's gotten a lot of attention. Forever chemicals. Fortunately, the Midwest area does not, because of really the lack of industry that caused a lot of the PFAS contamination that you're seeing in the Iron Belt and the eastern part of the states. We don't have that here in Nebraska. We've done our what we call our UCMR 5 testing for PFAS. We've not found any detections, but that would be something that would be potentially a concern in the future. And the treatment process just simply has to accommodate for the treatment of those chemicals. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but
yeah, no, I was sort of also thinking with cyanobacterial blooms, there's a little bit of a question of whether or not those cyanotoxins are getting into groundwater. I don't think anyone really knows well what's happening, but it seems like a potential concern for both waters versus the future.
It was that was something that we evaluated during the analysis that we did on Lake Jedi. You were following that, so that would have been potentially the large reservoir, kind of in that Ashland area off the Platte River. Certainly one of the concerns was having a body of water that could produce cyanotoxins, but hasn't been a problem with us so far with groundwater. Anything else? Yeah.
So yeah, just taking a segue from the water quality, again, great talk. In the Platte River, right now it's being treated for manganese and iron ore. I did see arsenic as one of the treatment plans for the newer well. So did you see arsenic occurrence, probability of arsenic there?
Yeah, I think at times it appears to be seasonally related. We'll see higher arsenic levels, and the big excavation that you saw on that one slide, really most of that is related to a large plate settler complex, where we're going to, along with a coagulant like ferric chloride, we're going to be able to remove more arsenic from the system. So, right now, arsenic levels that are in our finished water are probably in the 6-7 range. We hope to get that down to a treatment goal of about 4. parts per billion. The MCL's 10. So, yeah, hope that answered your question, but that is part of that upgraded treatment system. It's targeting.
So you were trying to have that in the Platte River well field also for arsenic?
That would be in our Platte River. Yeah, we've not seen that in so much in the Missouri River.
Okay.
What public water systems are you considering adding once you have that increased capacity? The communities that are along the pipeline, and I know there's some rural water systems in that area too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a kind of a topic for a different day. We are just in the initial stages of doing this. And so there's that whole financial part that comes along with it. There's no way that we could approach a community at the moment and really have a serious conversation about, here's what we could offer you and here's the cost of that water. We're just simply not there yet. It just naturally makes sense that there's an opportunity that exists there. But the reality is this is going to cost money. That the citizens of Lincoln have already put in quite a bit of funding into this project. We did get $197 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. But we've also put in about $50 million of rate revenues from our customers into this thing. So they've got a stake in it, and yeah, we're just not ready to have the conversation yet.
Yeah. When you're calculating the draw from the two water sources, are you looking at just, our impact on the water flow, or are you also looking at other municipalities and cities that are potentially pulling from these water sources as well? And then secondly, will the two waters merging, is that going to change the taste of my water at home? Because that's important.
Yeah, it could. Some people are more sensitive to taste and odors of water than others. We would hope that we would not upset that aesthetic balance that you see with the water. Certainly we can't have major upsets. For instance, if you have incompatible waters, you can have some real issues with turbidity in the water, simply because you're attacking some of the scale that's in the distribution system. So red water, water utilities sometimes have to deal with red water. That's a customer nightmare. So we would certainly make sure that there's compatibility with the two waters, chemical compatibility. Could you actually detect potentially? Yeah. It's interesting when we do get customers calling in about the taste or maybe the odor or some of the descriptions. I'm not real good at it. We have folks in our lab that are very good at it and can go out and confirm with the customer. Yeah, it does kind of have that, maybe that metallic taste. I'm not particularly. You had another.
The first question was around, do we calculate, utilizing other municipalities that are pulling from the same water source as well?
Yeah. Yeah. So again, the Missouri River is it's just got a lot of water in the system, right? And so I showed you that pie chart that we'd only be taking 0.25% really from the river. In terms of providing water to others, you have to look at the population that is outside of Lincoln that would maybe draw from this. That population base is pretty small. So we believe that our demand, the projections that we've made, that 40 million gallons of water that we need by 2075, has some flexibility in it to provide water to these surrounding communities.
I have a couple of questions from the online audience that I'll share with you. So the first is, would it be possible under the current regulations to provide water to any entities outside of the city limits of Lincoln?
Yeah, You know, certainly there would have to be some code changes on our side, potentially some state statute changes. But you know, can that all be overcome? Yes. But again, it's really too early to tell. It's really too early to have those conversations because we're just not there from a good financial planning standpoint. Obviously, when you sit down with the community and talk about providing water to them, there's that whole cost component. You got to have that conversation too. We all agree that this isn't going to be free. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is, the rankings for the second source showed a score for direct surface water intake from the Missouri River to be lower than from the well field. Was that because of permitting issues with no surface water appropriation permits required for the well field, or other major reasons?
I would say it's less of the permitting. We didn't identify any significant permitting issues with either of the options. Again, the Missouri River just has a lot of water in it, and it's not at all a fully appropriated water source. And so we believe the permitting on either of those options would be doable. It was more related to water quality. We talked about earlier, things like icing can raise havoc. MUDs had to deal with that a little bit. So I think it was more of those operational things that created that score differential. Water quality and operational considerations.
If anyone else in the room has one, I'll pause. Go ahead.
Steve, how much difference there is in water quality between the two sources, specifically the hardness? I mean, what are we talking about?
Oh gosh, it's I think we were probably an order of magnitude.
And this is the neg.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, your Flat River now runs about 225 to 30.
I think we saw values in the Missouri River. Yeah, order of magnitude probably wasn't the right answer, but we've seen those in the 300 to 400 range.
400. So you need to soften.
We're going to need to soften.
Yeah, so you wind up with two streams that you'll have to blend at some point in time. Otherwise, you'll have two, two animals, so to speak.
And softening in our Platte River supply, it would be very difficult. We're just running out of real estate.
Yeah, I was wondering how you're gonna, I mean, would it be also prudent to start softening the Platte River as well?
There's just not a lot of real estate to do that. Yeah. So we're gonna have to contend potentially with two water sources, one softened, one not.
How does Omaha deal with that, since they're pulling from the fluorescent street surface, Missouri River? Why?
I believe they soften at all three of their facilities.
Including the Platte?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
I have another online question. They'd like to know, will the pipeline from the Missouri River wells be above ground?
It'll be below ground.
Below ground?
Generally about 5 feet below ground, but it gets deeper when it involves drainages and creeks. Maybe on the hills, it's a little deeper.
And then, are there any considerations with the elevation change from the Missouri River to Lincoln?
Well, it's all about energy. So
Yeah.
it takes energy to move the water up the hill. So yeah, and again, that's one of those cost items that makes this water not free. And so, no, it can be done, but there is energy that you have to apply to it to get the water up the hill.
Okay, well, with that, we're at 4:30. So thank you all for coming today, and thank you to our online folks for attending as well.